There's endless lists about the best games, top 10 RPGs, top 15 RPGs, and get this, top 30 RPGs. But what about the worst games? They need love too. Aww. Today, we're playing some of the worst the PlayStation 1 has to offer. A mix of puzzle, action, and whatever this is. Welcome to Countdown Vampires, a game that's got it all. Cats, catgirls, and the best soundtrack on the PS1. You play as Keith Snyder, a bodyguard working at the Desert Moon, a horror-themed casino in the midst of a vampire outbreak during opening night.
No! This is real!
I think you found my YouTube channel.
Everyone get out! Go to the exits! Hurry! Hurry up and get out!
Right away, you may think this is a Resident Evil clone, and you'd be right, but clone doesn't necessarily mean bad. In this case it does, but in general, it doesn't need to, you know? Anyway, Keith escaped from the bouncer and now must escape the Desert Moon, all the while trying to rescue civilians along the way. The game's main enemies are vampires, which are super different from zombies. For one, they're faster. The gameplay loop consists of exploring areas, finding keycards, and solving puzzles that allow you to progress, all the while battling enemies and managing your inventory. It's your standard retro Resident Evil game, with some unique theming. Granted, I only played an hour of it, but it actually wasn't too bad. The vampires are very quick and take a lot of hits, but you can put them down for good by stunning them with your stun gun or punching them a bunch and then pouring white water on them. The game calls it white water, so maybe that's explained later, but yeah, I don't get it. Anyway, you never run out of white water, so just stun them, then hit X. Sometimes when they fall to the ground though, they're not actually stunned, so you gotta be careful. You can even play some casino games and use the cash to buy health items. I personally don't really like this style of game, but if you do, I would actually recommend checking it out. There are certainly better games in the genre, even outside of Resident Evil, but it does feel like it's doing its own thing and trying something new. The game also comes with 2 discs, so maybe it drags on later though. Countdown Vampires was reviewed with a score of 3.3 out of 10. Interestingly, the user scores are much higher, sitting at around 5 out of 10, telling me that this game certainly has its fans. Unfortunately released in 2000, Mortal Kombat Special Forces has you playing as Jax as he attempts to stop Kano from getting a MacGuffin. You run around, defeating enemies and finding ways to progress to the end of the level. Defeating enemies means a horrible combat system that doesn't hold a candle to the mainline games. Man, these guys sure love spamming block. You unlock combos as you gain XP, but good luck pulling them off. The enemies die so quickly, you'll get 1 shot per baddie. Fortunately, the game also has a bunch of guns for you to use. What Mortal Kombat is famous for? Firearms. They're basically instant kills. This means you'll run around, press a button to kill the occasional baddie you see, finding keys to open doors or explosives to clear a path, rinse and repeat. The first level is a warehouse. I'll never understand why game devs do this. It's a video game with a setting that's created by your imagination. It can take place literally anywhere. Ancient Egypt, space, cyberspace. And what did you choose? An empty warehouse. Wow, great job, Squidward. So how's the second level? Well, it's a sewer level. After every level, you'll have a boss battle. Unlike Countdown Vampires, there's nothing redeeming about Special Forces. A lot of Midway staff at the time, including Mortal Kombat co-creator John Tobias, left mid-development. I think that can help explain how Special Forces turned out the way it did. Tobias was the one who was pushing for MK to expand into more than just fighting games. And to be honest, I think it's a shame it didn't work out. Give this one a pass, unless you're a Mortal Kombat collector. Also, this game doesn't have any fatalities, so yeah, this game sucks. It received a score of 2.1 from GameSpot at its release. Spawn! There was about a 3-month period when I was 9 years old when I thought, hey, Spawn seems kinda cool. It lasted until I saw the Spawn movie. This game's really interesting in that it's one of the few times the movie and the movie game are on par in terms of quality. The game, as far as I can tell, doesn't have a story. Fittingly, you start the game in hell. You open a door and then you're in the New York subway system. Game's realistic so far. Also, I have this sweet Dark Souls roll. I'll abuse this later on because rolls in games are super addictive. So the game has two primary mechanics. The first is running around the level, finding buttons and very simplistic puzzles that allow you to progress. The second is this atrocious fighting minigame that plays whenever you encounter an enemy. I don't like fighting games, so maybe I'm a bad judge, but this seems bad. It's so stiff, and I'm not sure what it affects, but sometimes mashing buttons changes my cape into chains. Also, you can heal both inside and outside of combat, but this is the weird thing. The buttons to do it are different. Outside of combat, it's just L2 and L1. Inside combat, I can't figure it out. I mash buttons and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's unreliable, which is super annoying because death means restarting the entire level. Ugh. Speaking of, the levels are ugly. But not just the levels, the enemies are ugly, spawn's ugly, the game's just unpleasant to look at. But not in an interesting or inspired way like Cruelty Squad. I wish I could blame it on the development, but Todd McFarlane, creator of Spawn, was given several unfinished builds of the game as it was developing and signed off on them, so yeah, this is intentional. The game was delayed because they wanted it to be more like Tomb Raider. Yeah, because that's what I think when I think of Spawn. Instead of remote jungles with dinosaurs, it's the mean streets of 90s New York. I'm half expecting to run into the Warriors, but thinking of better games is making me sad. So you also have these 4 green numbers in the bottom right. I don't know what they mean, but healing changes them. It doesn't count them down, it just changes all of them. I feel like I'm in math class. Look at this. I healed and it went from 9321 to 8569. What does that mean? Someone help me. No boss battles in this game, I don't think. I just enter a portal and that's the end of the first level. Second level? Get this, a fucking sewer level. Not only is this game the second game out of 5 to have a sewer level, but it's also the second level in both games. Was this a designer sending a message? A cry for help maybe? The game is shit, and it literally takes place within shit. Anyway, I escape the sewers and into Chinatown. Yay, more ugly city streets. Rather than just human thugs, you now fight these big guys that remind me of Quake or Unreal Tournament. I don't know, big, blocky, two-tone colors. I wonder if Eminem is in this game too. 360 Rat! I make it to the Violator. This guy is Spawn's rival. I've always liked his design, lanky and demonic, especially his 3 horns. Anyway, I died here and time ran out. Rat Attack is technically a video game released in 1999 and has you playing as a member of the Scratch Cats, a group of 8 cats who protect the Earth from space rats. That's what the back of the case says anyway. That or my drugs have gone bad. You'll get very little explanation in the game itself. 6 of the cats are unlocked at the start, with the last 2 being locked. They have different names, stats, and even short bios in the manual. The entire game takes place in these tiny rooms. The rats will come out and attempt to eat items. You need to do a quick spin attack, then hit X to capture them. Lastly, you deposit them by stepping on this pad. If you get hit before depositing the rats, they will shoot out like one of Sonic's rings. Why a cat takes damage from a rat just by touching it? I don't know. And yep, that's the game. $50 please. There are boss battles, but the 2 I faced off with use the same mechanics. Wait for them to attack, then jump out of the way. One is this blue dog that hits walls, and the other is this big dog that hits a trash can with a bat. Even this blue dog boss can't believe you bought this crap. Speaking of which, the North American box art is atrocious. They went with early 2000s CGI renders, which never age well. It reminds me of those movie ripoffs of Disney and Pixar movies. What's extra lame is that the PAL version uses this nice hand-drawn art. Why not just use this? It's so much more soulful. Also, the rats look like they're not allowed within 500 feet from a school. We only have one more game to go. 20 minutes into this game, and it feels like an eternity. I didn't feel this way for Vampires or Mortal Kombat. Sure, those games suck, but they kept new mechanics and scenes coming. They also had decent pacing, but this? It's just the same, barely changed levels one after another. No story, no voice acting, different gameplay mechanics, nothing. I guess technically there's some crap about rats with letters above their heads and level hazards, but to be honest, I can't be bothered to devote brainpower to discern them. They don't matter, and it's not like these levels are difficult. Even the cat you choose doesn't matter. It feels so empty. Let's move on before I fall into a depression. DragonBall.guru claims there's 154 Dragon Ball games, and this is apparently one of the worst. That's impressive. Is it the worst PlayStation 1 game though? Let's find out. Starting the game, you get this opening showing off all the cool moments from the anime, none of which are in the game. We have 1-player versus computer, 2-player versus, championship mode, build-up modes, and options. No campaign or story mode, not even an arcade mode. Woof. I guess the game's called Ultimate Battle 22 because there's 22 characters. Most of the standard ones are here, but they all have the little trademark icons or registered next to their names. I don't get it, did they not get the full rights or something? It just screams corporate product to me. Not very immersive. What's equally not immersive is the graphics. These sprites, what happened? Let's compare Street Fighter Alpha 3 with Dragon Ball. It's night and day. Metal Slug, Breath of Fire 3, Chrono Trigger. The PS1 has some amazing looking games that use pixel art, so then why is this one so bad? The backgrounds too, they're 3D, but they look even worse. Is that supposed to be a tree? You can even see the texture seams. This is just embarrassing. I give credit to Countdown Vampires and even Rat Attack. I think some people who worked on those games really did care. I don't think anyone cared when making this. It's obvious, Ultimate Battle 22 was a cheap cash grab. It's your standard fighting game. You have one button for punches, one for kicks, one for key blast, and one to fly or land. An entire button dedicated to changing your lane. Again, I'm not a fighting game fan, but that seems incredibly shallow, no? So I've spent a ton of time with the Tenkaichi games. Huge fan, and one of my favorite aspects of them are both the transformations and the planet destroying specials. Neither of those are present here. Just to make sure, I went to YouTube to check, and yep, these are the specials. Let's try championship mode. 2 controllers? What? No, it's just me. So if you select no, it just kicks you back to the main menu. You can't play championship mode single player. So if you're playing solo, you can play single battles against the AI or build up battle. That's it. This feels illegal. This wasn't $50 at launch, was it? And you thought Cyberpunk was bad at launch. Imagine coming home to this. For the last mode, we have build up battle. It's a really cool idea, but I wish it were in a good game. Basically, you pick a character, then increase their stats by beating up other characters. All the other characters have levels, so it has some of that leveling system that all shonen anime seems to. Since there's no story mode, I don't really see the point of it here. It's like letting you customize your car in a game, but not having a mode where you can actually drive the thing. But the worst thing about the game, the one irredeemable factor, is that it uses the Japanese voices. I'll almost always opt for subs over dubs, except for when it comes to like 3 anime, Cowboy Bebop, Inuyasha, and Dragon Ball Z. No offense to the voice actor, but you can't grow up with something and change it later, you know? Speaking of sound, I do like the character selection theme. Groovy. But even that's not safe. It loops, which yeah, of course it does, but it has a definitive and clear end. Then it just starts back up. You couldn't make it loop seamlessly, like literally every other video game in existence? Oh, and this game was released in 1995 in Japan, but 2003 in America. Yeah, this game was released alongside Tekken 4. Which do I want to play? Oh man, I just don't know. I think with all these factors together, Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22 is the worst PSX game. It received a 1.2 from the legend Ryan Davis, rest in peace. And I'd like to leave you with his closing paragraph regarding the game. Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22 is a really terrible game, and it always has been. In fact, it's so bad that a longer review would only give the game more validation, which it simply does not deserve. To its credit, Infogrames knows its audience, and Ultimate Battle 22 will likely turn a tidy little profit, just because it carries the Dragon Ball Z name. However, DBZ fans should not buy, play, or even talk about this game, and Infogrames should be ashamed of itself for such a blatant attempt at cashing in on a popular license.